Welcome to the Blind Apex Podcast, where amateur club racers tune in to get faster.
I'm your host, Con John Turk, and this is the Blind Apex Podcast. On this episode, we're going to talk about the details required to build a race car. Joining me to talk about this topic is the best mustache in the NASA Mid-Atlantic paddock, former H2 racer, beer packaging engineer, or something like that. I don't know what he really does. He drinks a lot of beer, though, it seems like. And a builder of a new wild H1 car, Ryan Bradfield. Welcome to the show, bud.
Thanks, Con. Happy to be on.
Yeah, man. So, Brian, how did you start racing? Exactly. Where did that desire come from? Yeah, let's go way back.
Sure. Well, I guess the desire for automotive things in general started with my dad, who was into cars as a young man, like many young men are. Not Hondas, though, but I have an older sister who got a DA 91 Integra as her first car. And that kind of sent me down the path of being interested in Hondas. And racing started. I got a 98 Integra Type R, which I had up until a few years ago when I turned 16. Started autocrossing with that in high school. Did a couple DEs with it and started going to the Integra Type R expos. Didn't do a ton of events with it. Maybe, 8 or 9. And then once I got to college, I kind of put all that on pause. Just did the college thing for a couple of years.
Right.
I had met Naveen during that time, probably from one of the expos in person after we had started talking to each other on Honda Tech. He had a EG with a GSR swap in it at the same time, and we were aware of Honda Challenge. It was still around at that time in the Mid-Atlantic, and we had kind of kept in touch with each other. And eventually, once I got out of school and got a job and had some money, we kind of made a gentleman's agreement with each other that if you build an H2 car, then I'll build an H2 car. And that's the path that we went down. So I bought a caged shell, a PY Type R shell from Los Angeles, had it shipped to Virginia, picked it up off the back of an 18-wheeler in a Kmart parking lot in downtown Richmond, and started building it with my dad in this abandoned gas station that was next to the apartment that I was renting in Richmond at the time. So I got that car built, started doing a couple DEs with it. Naveen had his hatch on the way. Then I met Michael Young. I won a free weekend at Summit from Track That Shit, which is his thing that he started at the time. And so I got in with those guys and met him in PB, and they both decided they wanted to do comp school and run H2 also. And so we did that. And of course, in between this and comp school, I totaled the yellow Type R at Summit and bought another race prepped, already a former H2 car to do comp school with, because I didn't want to miss out on this kind of first class of the revitalization of Honda Challenge in the Mid-Atlantic. So that's kind of the cliff notes of how it all got started.
Yeah, so you're building car number 4-ish, maybe?
Well, the first Type R was always a street car, but it was a garage queen. It was a super nice car. Only had 59,000 miles on it when I sold it. But I'd had the normal DE stuff in it, roll bar, coilovers,
right,
stuff like that. And then the PY was a full track car build. It was, down to a bare shell when I started it. And then the replacement Type R for that was already a good H2 car, but not up to my OCD standards of how I like things. So I ended up tearing it all the way down and rebuilding it And then it's been a phenomenal race car for the 6 seasons I had it. Probably 10 seasons on that engine, and the thing still makes the H2 horsepower cap. So kind of one of the reasons I wanted to build something else is that I've just had such a good run in that car. I kind of want to let her rest a bit now.
Yeah, I was wondering exactly why you wanted to do H1 now, why you built an H1 car.
Right. So as you mentioned, I like building things.
Yeah, you do.
Parts are getting hard to find for golden era cars, especially Type R motors. I wanted to build something newer, as new as I could afford, to try to avoid the parts availability problems. And if I'm going to build a newer car, I wanted to build a faster car. And I also just couldn't see building another H2 car that would be more fun to drive than that Type R was.
Okay.
So I wanted to do something different, but still familiar enough, and obviously still in the Honda family.
Yeah. So for those people that don't know you, what are you building?
So I'm building a 2010 Acura TSX for H1 with a J-Series V6 power plant. So the engine that's going in it is a J35 Z6, which is a super common J-Series engine out of the 09 to 14 Acura TLs, 3.5 liter. It's going to have big tires, big brakes, more aero than an H2 car. So I'm kind of hoping it drives like a large, more powerful Integra.
We can hope. We can hope.
Of course, I've never driven a TSX, nor have I ever driven a J-powered car more than 20 mile an hour around my block. So it could be awful, but hopefully it's not.
Yeah, hopefully not. I finished building my new H2 car. I could go to H1 with just a motor swap, but you picked the TSX because it still has double A arms, right?
Yep, still has double A arms. I'm a bit of an Acura snob, so I wanted an Acura more than a Honda. Yeah. And I'm inspired by Real Time and the success they had. They ran the Integra with great success, and then they had great success with the TSX with both a K series and a J series in it.
Right. So
they kind of proved that it could run with rear wheel drive, faster, more powerful cars. And if I'm building this car, it's nice that it will be able to run in a couple different classes with fewer changes than, say, my H2 car.
Right. So let's get into that a little bit, because when you chose this chassis, were you scouring the rule books? Were you looking through to try to find like the optimal niche for you to build?
Not really. I think it comes back to the similar but different. I still wanted to do a front-wheel drive Honda, but if you're sticking with K-Series, then you're still sticking with a 4-cylinder. And the J-Series is different enough that I don't have any experience with it, but working on it is still like working on a Honda engine. And I know it makes good torque, makes pretty good power. I think if you built a car to the limit of the H1 rules now, it would probably be pretty dominant. I'm not quite doing that. And one of the reasons is I think the rules are probably going to change a little bit over the next year or two, right, as more people are building H1 cars. Not a lot of people, but at least I'm building this, which is pretty irregular for H1. And then Helms is trying to get the Civic Type R classed. So I think there's probably going to be some evolution in H1 as well as H2 over the next couple of years. So I don't want to dump too much money into a crazy motor build just to have it restricted, after a couple races in or next season or something like that.
Yeah, I understand that. The rules will change. It doesn't matter whether we're talking Honda Challenge or GLTC or SCCA, STL, whatever. The rules evolve, and so you do need to be a little flexible when you start your builds. fortunately for me, restricted prep H2 rules haven't changed for squat since they were written. So I'm pretty sure they're not going to change.
You think that's fortunate for you?
Well, no, not at the rate that I'm murdering Toyo RRs, but yeah.
Well, I'll be pushing 260, 270 foot-pounds through them, so we'll see how that goes.
Yeah. What size tire are you trying to run up front?
I'm running 295 3018s up front.
You need to go to like a 305. You need to go to a Corvette.
It's an option.
Okay. Just keep it up.
I'm running 295 front, 255 rears. Okay. And to keep the same stagger, I think Toyo also makes like a 315 and a 275 or something.
Yeah, I'm not sure you're going to need the rear tire, but you're also double A arm. I'm suffering through this McPherson strut life and burning down tires 2 millimeters at a time at Summit Point a day. 2 mils a day.
Pros and cons to all the different cars, right?
Yeah, I'm not sure there's a pro to my car yet. I'm still trying to figure that one out. We'll see.
It's part of the fun.
So, how did you acquire your 2010 TSX?
Copart. So I found it on Copart. You know, I've been building this car in my head for probably the last 5 years, right? So I had a pretty good idea of what I wanted. I wanted to start with a manual car, which is significantly more rare for a TSX.
True.
Especially a second generation TSX. They did not make many of them. There's probably 5 or 6 on Auto Trader right now in the country. But I managed to find one. I think it was in North Carolina. And, you know, a lot of these auction sites, the descriptions of the cars are kind of broad of why they're at the auction.
Yeah.
So this one was, I think it said it had body damage and it said it ran when it got there. But as I've learned, ran when it got there could mean there was a hole in the oil pan, which there was in mine, and maybe they just spun it and it ran for 3 seconds and they turned it off. But that's how I found it, and the engine in it ended up being good, so I sold that and made a little bit of money back. And then I found the Accord. I bought a running 2009 Accord V6 manual transmission coupe, and bought it to have a complete donor for the drivetrain setup that was going into the TSX.
Okay.
Which actually proved to be a pretty easy swap. The chassis are the same architecture. So I pretty much dropped the subframe with the engine and transmission on it out of the Accord, and it bolted right up into the TSX. I had to do a little bit of repinning on one of the ECU connectors and another one of the kind of shock tower plugs in the TSX, because the K-Series and J-Series ECUs get power in slightly different places and things like that. But that was actually a pretty easy part of the swap. Of course, I made it way more difficult by thinning out all the electrical harness and moving the fuse boxes to have easier access and maintenance in the future, and just, you know, made it more difficult than it needed to be.
So I'm not sure what rabbit hole to go down first, but let's talk about how you prepared the chassis itself. You didn't strip it all the way down, I don't think. It's not like you acid dipped it.
You mean for paint and stuff?
Yeah, I'm trying to, because you've had this plan in your head. So you knew, but once you got the car, you knew what's your order of operation. You stripped it down to basically nothing. Well, you made sure things fit, which is smart on you. I wouldn't have done that. I'd have just assumed and started rolling. But
so I got the engine in, I got it running, I drove it around the block without any CELs or error codes. I know that I don't actually know the ABS worked, but I know the wheel speed sensors were all reading, because I'm going to be running an AIM MXL2 in it. So, and that can actually pick up the wheel speed sensors and steering angle and stuff like that. So I knew all that stuff was reading correctly. I drove it around the block just to make sure it, functioned like a car. And then we stripped it down. Dad, of course, is always a big help. And we stripped it down to the bare shell, every nut and bolt. That was probably around this time last summer, because I think I took it to Piper for the cage in July of last year.
Yeah.
So, and actually it wasn't completely stripped out by then because I left it running. So with it running, I stripped out as much of the interior as I needed. I gutted the doors so Piper would have clearance, to make sure I had a good fitting cage, took the windshield out. And then once I got it back from him, that's when the strip down happened. So prep for paint, I like pretty things. So we painted the interior and the wheel wells and the engine bay first. The wheel wells ended up getting stripped down to metal, just because there's all the, sound deadening tarry stuff in the wheel wells. And yeah, that just ended up being easier. After I degreased and scrubbed it while laying on my back in the backyard in early fall, which was chilly. And then the engine bay and the interior just got scuffed. Of course, you saw my paint debacle. I had paint peeling off in some areas. I'm still not exactly sure why. But it doesn't seem to be awful right now. And we can redo that next winter if we need to. But speaking of making things more difficult than they needed to be, I wanted the roll cage to be a different color than the rest of the interior. So we masked the interior off, painted the roll cage, which is a metallic gray, the same color that Real Time used on the interior of their cars. Shout out to Peter Cunningham. I sent him a Facebook message. The great guy that he is, he was at a race weekend with customers. He got in contact with his body shop. They gave him the paint code.
Nice.
And he messaged me back all within a couple hours. So
awesome.
That was pretty awesome.
Yeah,
have a nice nod with him. And it's actually a Nissan color, which is crazy. But
yeah, so
then after the cage was painted, then let it dry, then masked it, then painted the rest of the interior. So doing everything twice, more or less.
Yeah, I learned the lesson with my EM1 that I was no longer going to paint the cage a different color than the interior.
Yeah,
I did it once.
The last time I did this, because I did this on the Type R too, the same color.
Which one?
The white. I mean, I guess both of them. But, I completely stripped and then sprayed, with an HVLP gun, the interiors of both of those cars. And even when I did the same color, I painted them at two different times because the likelihood of getting a nice finish on all the bars without messing up the paint on the other areas is so slim that I still painted them in two different sessions. But it's one of those, I'll never do it again. And then years pass and you end up doing it again. And then you remember why.
Yeah, but I talked to James down at IPG a lot, obviously. And I guess all three of us got our cars done at Piper, our last cars done at Piper anyway. And it's an investment.
Yep.
And you kind of want to make sure it's protected. That for you, the shining star is that it's beautiful, right? But you want to protect that investment. You don't want to work on it in 5 years and find surface rust on a tube that's supposed to be protecting you,
Oh, yeah, of course. And just having a nice cage in general, I try to do as much myself as I can just because I have pretty high standards for things.
Right.
But I cannot make a roll cage. And it's one thing that's going to be with the car its entire life. It has your safety in mind. So it's definitely an area where it's better not to skimp.
Yeah. And did you copy anyone else's cages, like the Real Time cages, or did you make modifications for yourself?
Yeah. So a little bit of everything. Social media is great for seeing what other people are doing and things that you like. So I've been looking at cages for a while. I had to start looking at cages for sedans, right?
Right.
So because they're a little different than the hatchback of the Integra. But yeah, the Real Time was a pretty strong influence. some other like BMW sedan cages, and then just running those ideas past Mitch at Piper, getting his input, based on the thousands of cages that they've made. And we arrived at kind of a solution that incorporated the bests of a lot of different cages, and still having some small kind of budget.
Some small budget. I know what my budget was.
Not a small budget, a small idea of a budget.
Yeah, well, I don't want to know what your actual numbers are, but yeah,
No.
I did sort of the same thing on my car. I looked at basically the HPD cars that were built, and then took in my years in the tech shed of what I wanted, knowing where the car was going to be weight wise. Did you weigh your car before you sent it to Mitch to see whether the light spots were?
Not to see where the light spots were. I did weigh it before and after, and I don't remember what those weights are off the top of my head. But, I mean, this car's got to weigh 3,100 pounds.
Right.
So I wasn't particularly concerned with needing a lightweight cage.
Yeah, I didn't.
So it's 1.75 diameter and the thicker wall of the two. Because I think the NASA CCR changes tube size at 3,200 pounds. Though I think that's without driver.
It's without driver.
So I probably could have used.
And with like fluids, though. You have your fluids,
right.
No driver, but it doesn't say gas. I can't remember.
Yeah, and I think at the time I thought I was going to be pretty close to that cutoff, and then the without driver thing popped up. So that gave me enough leeway to have been able to use the small stuff, but the weight difference is not that significant when you're building a 3,100 pound car and not a 1,900 pound car.
Right.
So we want the bigger stuff.
Plus, you're going to go much faster on the back straightaway than you've been before. So,
yep.
Yeah, I would definitely want a little more tubing.
Yeah, and I'm super happy with the cage. It's even his spec kind of standard cage, which I think he references as like a spec E46 cage, is nice. But I added jack points on the side. I did kind of the FIA style door bars. I did a lower sill bar on the driver's side. I did a horizontal bar between the feet of the main hoop. And then I did 2 extra down bars going from the rear shock towers forward to the base of the main hoop feet. And it all got gusseted in and welded to the A pillars, and the horizontal bar at the feet of the cage goes and gets welded on the exhaust tunnel and stuff. And I did front shock tower bracing to the firewall. That was the one kind of treat yourself kind of thing I did.
Yeah,
on
man,
the cage
treat yourself.
I always wanted to do.
Who cares about money?
Yeah, I mean, once you get this far into the hole, just do it.
Just do it. Yeah, I did it. I did a whole thing in the back end of my car because traditionally they run really big springs back there. They're divorced.
Yeah.
So I wanted to shore up the footing of those. So. And I'm fluffy. So if you're fluffy and you're not skinny like Ryan Bradfield, you need NASCAR door bars. I hate to tell you guys that. It's just way easier.
Yeah.
If you're skinny.
I actually think getting out of this car is going to be harder than the Integra because the doors are shorter because it's a sedan.
Yeah. But
the Integra, I don't even open the door to get out. I just go up through the window, which I might still be able to do on this. I haven't tried yet.
My helmet fits through the window of my car.
Yeah.
With my Hans, it's really tricky, but I'm figuring if I'm going that way, my adrenaline will make the Hans clear. So. Yeah. But I know there's cars out there where people's helmets don't even fit through the window.
Yeah, I think some of the Camaros they had to do cutouts in the roof or something so that they could get out more easily.
Yep. So let's go back to that paint. You had an issue with paint. Okay. We still don't know what it is, but
Right.
And Ryan mentioned that he's a little OCD. He would not fix that paint. And this is the level of detail you build to.
Well, so at the time, I mean, so we painted the interior, the engine bay, and the wheel wells all with that same batch of paint at the same time with the same level of prep. It was over bare metal and I did a DTM primer, and that same batch of paint had trouble sticking to that and to the scuffed OEM finish. So I think it was a problem with that paint. I don't really know a way to verify that for sure, but yes, of course, my initial thought was we need to sand all this down and redo everything. But the amount of that would have cost me an extra month.
Yeah.
And at the time, it's just hard to remotivate yourself to do the same job again anyway. And at the time, I was still trying to make our March event, which obviously did not happen. So I was just over it at that point. And it's maybe I'm making it a bigger deal than it's going to actually be, and it's going to be fine. But we'll cross that bridge when we get to it.
Yeah. Yeah.
The exterior, on the other hand, turned out great.
It's beautiful. Beautiful. Back to championship white.
And I got to say, championship white, probably the only championship white, second generation TSX. And I'm particularly proud of my body shaping with Bondo filling in that sunroof. I still cannot believe how well that turned out.
Yeah,
Though I am afraid I'm going to hit a bump on the track and it's going to fly off, and that'll be the end of it.
Well, it may crack, but hopefully not. So,
yeah. By that time, I'll have sourced a non-sunroof roof from Europe or Japan, and we'll take care of it the right way.
Oh no, I should have reskinned the roof on my EM1, and I just didn't want to take the time. But
yeah, I mean, if I wasn't doing this car all at once and it was legal, I'd be building a carbon roof, but maybe down the road.
It's not legal in H1?
You might be able to do it over top of the existing roof.
Probably.
I don't really know.
I mean, I think that's technically how Brent has his car done. It's a sunroof cover. So.
Yep.
But you did touch on the wiring. So you had to repin some things. I'm assuming you're very intimate with your the repair manual.
Yes. Yeah. So at this point, that is one benefit of the extra work I created for myself, is that I'm very familiar with the electrical system of this car now. So troubleshooting it in the future should be easier.
Right.
I moved the OEM fuse and relay boxes to a much easier to access location. So you're not on your back, upside down, under the dash, trying to replace fuses and stuff.
I totally should have done that, by the way. I regret that.
And then thinned out a lot of, yeah, I bet. Yeah, especially as a larger guy, I'm sure it's a pain in the ass for you.
I send Jason.
And then thinned out. Yeah, that's a good point.
And even
you got him, you're okay.
But he gets vertigo going upside down under a dash.
Yeah, so. That's a perfect Sylvia job. She could take care of that.
Oh yeah, I'm sure she'll be real thrilled.
Right. So yeah, did the wiring, and of course, when I was thinning stuff out, I would do a few things, and then make sure the car still ran without errors. Right.
Yep.
Because these newer cars with the CAN bus systems and everything's related, I didn't want to pull something silly like the rear door latch wiring and have it throw an ABS code or something.
Correct.
So there was lots of trial and error. Luckily, not a lot of error along the way. And I think we're going to be okay. The only thing I hesitate is that in doing this, I've created a lot of splices and connections that I've made, which every time you do that, you're opening yourself up for error. So I used good stuff, and I have pretty good technique now after doing it a lot. So we'll see how it fares.
So one thing,
but I'd really like to do a PDM and a standalone.
I was going to ask about that,
but we're budgeting that for maybe next year.
Okay. So one thing I do,
that's probably another that's probably another $5,000, right? To do a PDM and a standalone and build a nice harness.
Yeah,
and
but
stuff.
you need to look at the AIM dash PDM setup and see if that. I don't know if you
Yeah.
own that. What are you doing? The MXS dash? Do you own that yet?
Yeah, I got a MXL2
Okay.
for like $1,100,
Okay.
brand new. So I got a pretty screaming deal. I had looked into the combined AIM PDM stuff, and at the time, or even now, I guess it's still not foolproof. Like the Honda Research West guys that ran them in the 24-hour cars
Right.
at Thunder Hill, the first year they ran them, they were having some issues. And that's when I was kind of figuring out what I was going to do. So that deterred me. I think they figured it all out by now. But yeah, that was, $5,000 I can save now and do that later.
I think it was only
The cost really creep up when you're building everything at once. Right?
Yeah, trust
it's not
me.
like I'm going through the HPD ladder and adding things, every year all at once stings.
Yeah, I'm telling you, it stung for H2. I don't want to know what it stings for you, but
yeah, and so much custom stuff for this car, which just adds because there's not a big aftermarket for it.
Same.
So that adds time and cost.
Yeah. So one thing I did, anywhere we spliced into the harness, even if it's rewrapped with the factory loom stuff, I have like neon yellow zip ties that rebind right around the area.
Yeah.
So I know.
Yeah.
Well, this failed. Why did it fail? Well, where did I splice in? I can trace it real quick.
Don't pull on this wire too hard. I spliced it.
Yeah. Another question is when you're looking at wiring in your AIM, wiring in aftermarket stuff in general, are you using special connectors so you can quick disconnect like Deutsch connectors or anything like that?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of their ATM connectors.
Okay.
I think they're very similar, or maybe it's just another term for the DTMs.
Mm-hmm.
But those are the ones I use. I get most of them from Waytech Wire. It's like an online motorsports electronics place. I think they're in Michigan.
Okay.
And I'm a big fan of those.
Are you getting your additional looming from them, or are you just buying Amazon looming?
Just Amazon stuff. I actually haven't bought loom for this new one yet. I'll probably do some kind of split loom because I don't feel like taking off all the Honda connectors to get sleeving back on.
Yeah.
But I'll probably leave all the loom off until I dyno the car and make sure it runs to some degree, and then I'll go back and reloom stuff. At least the stuff that's in the engine bay that's going to be hard to get to and most likely to cause a problem.
Yeah. So you alluded to it a little earlier about needing custom parts all the time. With your build, how are you picking parts? I'm a buy once, cry once person, so I spend a lot of money when I spend it. So, and I know you're building stuff. So
I am to most degree also. Just a lot of research, and then so this engine has monoport exhaust manifolds, so they're like two little mini downpipes. Right. And there are a couple companies that make, they used to make what they call in the J series world pre-cat deletes or PCDs, but with the change in emissions regulations for aftermarket stuff that was happening in California 2 or 3 years ago, most places stopped selling those. And they were also not the size I thought I would need, the diameter. Mm-hmm. So I ended up kind of piecing together custom PCDs, J-pipe, and a turn-down exhaust, and then had Darren weld it all together and fabricate it for me. And then I sent it off to Jet Hot to have coated. And I'm super happy with what Darren did. The thing was absolutely gorgeous, and I kind of wish I hadn't Jet Hot coated it because it's not nearly as pretty now. But it'll definitely help.
You're also hiding it under the car, so
Yeah, I know. But I got some good pictures of it
I
before
know.
I got it jet hot coated.
I know you did. He does good work, so you can't knock it. Um,
Yeah.
we'll go down the coatings rabbit hole. Are you doing any powder coating, low friction, heat disbursement coatings, anything like that outside of your hot jet coat?
Yeah, so just the jet hot stuff for the exhaust stuff. I powder coated a lot of stuff myself, just kind of smaller brackets and suspension arms and stuff like that, just to make them pretty. I didn't do anything else thermal related other than putting some fiberglass heat tape on the bottom of the oil pan. So that's really all I've done for heat stuff. Conflicting research on whether J series cars need oil coolers.
Right.
So I'm not planning to run one, but I'm running a Track Tough oil filter remote kit, with AN fittings and stuff. So it would be easy to add one later in if I need to.
Throw it in line with that and be good.
Yep. Yeah, and I'm running a combo oil pressure / temp sensor on that remote filter mount that'll feed into the AIM. So I'll be able to get the data and determine if I need a cooler or not pretty quickly.
Okay. Yeah, I'm still on old school digital autometer gauges, so I don't think they're very accurate because my motor would have blown up by now, but whatever.
Yeah, I'm excited to have the AIM. It doesn't have the cool color screen, but it still runs the same software and stuff as the newer ones.
Okay.
So it should be pretty neat. Of course, there's no AIM configuration for an Acura TSX. So that was another project in itself. Was I went through the 9 or 10 different configurations that AIM has in the software and just tried them all and see which one would work and read the most information coming from the stock CAN bus system in the TSX. And the 06 to 11 Civic one actually picks up pretty much everything. So that's the one I'll be running.
Does it? That's interesting. That might make my life easier.
So I can even get I get steering angle, I get wheel speeds, and all the engine stuff. I think I can even get yaw rate and stuff like that from some of the stock sensors.
Are you going to be rich and put your shock sensors on it so you can?
Maybe when I get some shocks.
Sorry,
that's the one part keeping me from being able to put the car on the ground right now.
Yeah. Are you? Did you order doubles or singles?
Well, so the Redshift standard stuff is what I'm waiting on.
Right.
I had originally ordered singles. Once he announced he was going to do doubles, I changed my order to those.
Absolutely.
This all started like 8 months ago or something. And there's been a lot of delays. So that's been frustrating. I think it'll be a good product when it's available. It's just not available yet. So
yeah.
And another one of those areas where there aren't a lot of good off-the-shelf options, unless you're, I'm buying JRIs again, like I have on the Integra, or doing something, custom with MCS or Penske or something like that. And I didn't want to spend that kind of money right now.
Yeah, I'm also on Redshifts, and I just need to learn how to use my doubles before I even think about going to something more pricey. So.
Yeah, I just listened to your episode with Jackie and your hesitation of turning knobs.
Yep. Yeah, I don't turn knobs. Yeah. Unless somebody tells me.
I understand that sentiment completely. You assume there's more left in the driver than there is.
Oh, there's absolutely more
car,
left in the driver.
I always feel the same way.
There's so much more left in the driver. My current issue, 3 days post Summit Point, is that I know I'm not the best driver, but the car does not feel like I want it to feel, and somehow I got to get it to feel better.
Yeah.
Not just to
or go faster. It might not necessarily feel better,
right? Well, I mean, yeah, sure. I'm burning down tires up front, and
yeah,
I can feel them spinning while I'm trying to turn the car and apply very little gas. So I don't know.
Well, come run H1, you can run 295s and maybe it won't be as big a problem.
Yeah, well, I'm ordering 245s because they won't mess up my gearing too much. And then I'm going to shrink my rear tire down to a 225. So we'll see.
You've got a plan.
We'll see. I might even take the aero off the car. Because I was listening to a podcast about developing, when you develop your car, just don't do aero, or if you do aero, it has to be balanced and it has to be a known quantity. And much like you, they don't make aero for my car really. So we're just making things work. Well, I might go back to basics.
Yeah. I've got the wing off the Integra ready to go on at the moment. I haven't built any kind of front splitter yet.
Yeah. You have a subframe though on that car. My challenge is the subframe. It's either in the way or not useful to mount to, or all sorts of things. So
yeah, I was looking at some of the race bred stuff. I think some of the kind of generic style splitter mounts I could probably adapt fairly easily. They definitely don't attach the way a Golden Arrow would, though.
No, not at all. Yeah, it'll be a challenge. So, for this swap and in your car, what are some other things you've had to build yourself?
So I had a custom final drive made.
And then modified.
Another area. And modified when the diff bolts would not fit through. So that was kind of a bummer. And it seems like it's such a precision machine part. The guy's making the whole entire ring gear, shaft and oil pump gear with extremely tight tolerances. And somehow the bolt hole size didn't get measured correctly. So that was frustrating, but we were able to get a local machine shop just down the road for me to get those opened up. And that Darren's actually putting the transmission together. I think he's supposed to have that done this weekend.
Nice.
So maybe, fingers crossed, next weekend I'll be able to get it in the car and try to give it a run. But yeah, so that was custom. Oh, the diff. Hardly anyone makes a limited slip diff for these cars. When HPD was campaigning them, Cusco made diffs for them. Right. Of course, a J Series car has not been campaigned by anyone, at least through HPD, since maybe 2016. I think Shea Holbrook and a couple other people ran the V6 Accords, the ones with the struts in the front. But so they stopped making them. I did find a guy that had two on a shelf, but he didn't want to get rid of them. OS Geiken would make 10 of them if I wanted to pay to have 10 of them made. Of course.
Use Freddie's discount.
Then I was actually, no problem. I was going down the rabbit hole of using a newer Civic Type R diff.
Right.
Because the transmissions on those are an evolution of the J Series transmissions, and the diffs will drop in, but the axle spline count is different. So then I'd have to be either mixing and matching my own axles and intermediate shafts. And then, of course, if you have a bad one, you can't just run to a parts store and get an emergency replacement if you need to, and custom axles are expensive. But it ends up that a guy that specializes in building really nice supercharger kits for J Series cars had Cusco make a run of those Type R. I think it's a Type RS Cusco diff. And I was able to grab one from him. So he only had 6 of them made. And it just so happened that through social media, some guy knew about it that followed me and sent me a message and said, this guy is making them. I told him, you probably need one. And so I got hooked up with him. And so now I have a pretty cool Cusco diff.
And it's the clutch packs are replaceable with standard off-the-shelf Cusco stuff?
Yep. Yeah, and it can be the RS can be built as both a 1 and a 1.5 way with different ramp angles and stuff like that.
Nice.
And in preparation for this, I also had that ring gear dual drilled because the Accord, the older Acura J Series like the TL and CL Type S, and then the Civic Type Rs all had different bolt patterns.
Right.
So I had it dual drilled to allow for 2 of those. One of them being the stock torsion limited slip that came in the TL and CL Type S, and then also drilled for the newer Civic Type R stuff. So it was 12 bolt, 14 bolt, and 16 bolt. And I was able to get 2 of them to work on the same ring gear.
Nice.
Yeah. So now that should be good. And I'll just tear all the teeth off 3rd and 4th gear, which evidently is just you have to replace them every 20 hours or something like that.
What? You have to replace what?
The 3rd and 4th gears on those cars shear after just a certain amount of hours. So when like Jeremy Lucas and those guys ran the TLs, they had an H1 TL type. Actually, it was just a TL. They had a Type S engine in it eventually. But yeah, they just had a set number of hours they would replace them after because they would shear teeth.
I think,
but that's probably a rules request that I could submit. They would get passed just for a durability kind of thing.
What are you going to request? Hardening, low friction coating?
Yeah, I guess, or a straight cut gear or something. A company called RV6 actually makes a stock 3rd and 4th. I think they originally made them for HPD when they were running them.
Okay.
And they just kept making them for these guys that are now turbo charging and supercharging these cars. They make pretty good power that way.
Yeah. I'm sure you're going to make plenty of power stock-ish.
Yeah. I think we'll probably be around 300, maybe just under.
Yeah, but you're probably going to have 350 foot-pounds.
Yeah, I think it'll probably put down 300 horsepower, maybe like 260, 270 torque.
Okay.
And the torque comes on super early.
Have you used any of your beer package engineering degree skills to, say, make an intake manifold, an intake for your car?
I did make an intake box.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think.
How many beers does it hold?
How many beers does it hold? Well, it holds a 4-inch, 6-inch long cone filter.
Okay.
It's probably like a gallon and a half, something like that.
Yeah, we're gonna put.
So yeah, I think my profession in that type of design thinking definitely comes in handy when building race car stuff, and having access to modeling software and 3D printers and stuff like that is definitely a benefit for sure.
Well, I think it's a good combination. That skill, that thought process, and your OCD mixed together, you build beautiful, very functional race cars, and I can't wait to see this one finished.
Yeah, you and me both.
I mean, the whole paddock is waiting. Let's be honest.
Yeah, June, I think.
Okay.
The June Summit event is the new goal.
Well, hopefully I don't miss that one. We'll put the Mr. Bradfield light up in the sky like Batman. He can come over. He can help.
We'll all assemble.
Right. Yeah. Just let us know when we need to come down and help, So the other thing... Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. No, I was going to say I'm not good at delegating car tasks because I don't trust other people to do things.
No, yeah, I get you. I get it.
Case in point, the one thing I had someone else do, the final drive, did not turn out well.
I understand. But we can at least bring you a beer, hand you a tool, drink the beers you're not going to drink, those types of things, right?
Yes.
We can pick things up for you.
Well, I got Dad for that.
Well,
and he's been a huge help.
Yeah.
For the refinishing parts and just having someone to take over kind of the monotonous tasks that just burn you out, prepping the body and sanding and stuff. The car definitely would not be to the level it is if I did not have his help. So he's been amazing.
Yeah. Shout out Mr. Bradfield. I think this delay with your shocks is actually helpful for you because it's allowing you to get the car to a level of detail that you like. I think if you would have had the shocks, you would have rushed some things and you wouldn't have been as happy. I know you're not happy now.
Yeah, that's
it's
true,
not done. So you're not happy.
Right.
But
I don't know. I think the smile on my face while driving it might be bigger than the smile on my face waiting for shocks.
Yeah, but I think the smile on your face when you finally get to drive it will be just a little bit bigger. Another mil on each side, you know?
Yeah. I do too. And I'll feel less guilty that it was not me holding up the process.
Yeah.
Well, at least not me directly. I mean, it was my decision to, get these shocks and keep accepting the delays and not going with something else. But
yeah, but you you do have limited choices for something else also.
Yeah.
So.
Yes. And nothing's off the shelf, right? So even if I went with someone else right now, it would be 5 to 8 weeks.
Correct.
So unless I knew that 5 to 8 weeks ago, it's not very helpful.
Yeah. So I have a personal question. I didn't build my car quite to the level of detail that you did. It's way better than my first car. But
agreed.
about like miles, but that's not hard. Maintaining your car. How do you keep the interior fresh? Because we're jumping in and out. We've got crap on our race shoes. We're always doing stuff. Just your general maintenance. How do you keep the car so pristine?
Well, if you get run into or hit someone with the front end of your car once a season or so, you're gonna have to put new body parts on it, and you'll have to paint those. So that's one way to do it.
That's not the optimal
which I've
way.
done a few times. It's not the optimal way.
I got ran into for the first time this weekend. So
yeah, I'm not really anything specific. I mean, we did clear film on the roll cage and stuff to keep paint from chipping, and I keep some spray wax or something on it. And then, outside of appearance, just, I nut and bolt. I check every nut and bolt on the car before a race weekend. I change the oil after every race weekend, oil filter every 2, transmission fluid every 2. I do a timing belt and spark plugs every off season, stuff like that. So just trying to get ahead of things before they become problems, and using good quality parts, right?
Yeah.
So I've used Honda wheel bearings, OEM Honda hubs, OEM Honda ignition parts, just stuff like that. As you mentioned before, do it right the first time, and things don't become a problem as often.
Yeah. So one thing I neglected on my car, I did not drop the subframe when we were building it. Not that it needed to necessarily, but you dropped your subframe. I bet your subframe has fresh paint on it. To paint it, you had to clean it real well.
Oh yeah, it's got Eastwood 2K ceramic paint on it.
Yeah,
man.
ballin', right? So I go to swap control arms, front control arms, because my compliance bushings were wearing on the car, and they were rubber compliance bushings. So I pull these control arms out, and the cubbies that these things sit in are full of grime. And I used, I don't know, a dozen paper towels, blue paper towels per side, and a can of brake clean, just trying to get them so they weren't gritty in there. And I'm like, Brian would never stand for this. Never.
Never be too clean, man.
I mean, you're part of the clean race cars or fast race cars mafia. So,
yeah, I mean, you feel good, you run good, and makes it easier to see problems, and just it's more enjoyable to work on a clean, nicely organized race car. And I spend a ton of time working on a race car, so it just makes it a nicer place to be.
Yeah, this doesn't go out as a video, but he's sitting in the entryway of his garage waiting to get off this podcast so he can work on his race car some more. But
no, I think we'll take the night off.
Staying organized in your car and how you organize it is really key. Edgar came through this weekend and zip tied more stuff up that I didn't zip tie up enough for him. His logic was it could be a distraction. He doesn't understand that I don't look at the floorboard when I'm racing, but
you might catch it out of the corner of your eye and draw your eyes off the track for a second, and there you go.
And it could happen that way. Absolutely it could. And one thing that I didn't do that I totally should have, and Jason told me that I probably should have, is move that darn fuse box. That fuse,
more difficult to do now. Right?
Sort of. We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
I designed the dash to come out with 4 bolts. So,
well, that's good.
Yeah. And none of the bolts are under anything. Like I don't have to flip upside down to take my dash out, right? That's important. Yeah. There's things that you need to do while you're building your car, designing your car, thinking about your car to make your life easier. Remember, when you're doing it in your garage, that's the optimal place you'll be. The place that you don't want to do it, but it'll likely have to be done, is in the paddock.
Yeah, in the rain.
In the rain,
in the
dark, think of what the adversity could be when you're placing something.
Yeah, that's another great reason to stay current on maintenance and nut and bolt stuff, as it is much more comfortable to do it and less stressful to do it in your garage than it is at the racetrack. If you've done your job correctly, you should not be working on your car outside of making adjustments to it at the racetrack.
Yeah. But it takes a lot of detail, a lot of planning while you're building it, while you're repairing it. I take repairs as a mini build. Okay. I need to repair the front shocks or whatever. I was replacing the front control arms on my car. I took the time to clean out that area. I took the time to torque everything, paint pen everything, Loctite things, check everything while I was there, right? Not just replace that part.
Did you re-zinc your bolts while you were at it?
No, I did not re-zinc my bolts like you and Naveen do. I'm not even going to tell people where I buy stuff because I don't want them to keep buying it.
Well, I got a good re-zinc guy now if you ever get them.
Okay, well, I have about 70 pounds of Honda bolts that I need.
Yeah, that'll do
I've run it through the parts washer, and that's usually good enough. Then I go through it and figure out what's junk and what's not. But run it through the parts washer, and then it's good enough for me. But
well, if you ever have an excuse to drive to Raleigh, this guy was in Raleigh, and I think I paid $200 to have all the Honda bolts that I've collected over the years re-zinc.
Nice. I will tell you that I have taps and dies for basically every bolt size on my car, and I run them constantly. I chase bolts, even bolts I took off the car. If they look grimy, dirty, even the slightest bit like they stripped a little, I'm rerunning that bolt. I will chase that hole because you don't want to do it.
No reason not.
You're in the optimal place in your garage to do it. Just do it. So
agreed.
Those are a lot of details people miss. Binding, the way you bind and route your wiring harness is a really big deal. A lot of people talk about, don't run your power and grounds through the same spot in the firewall. For some cars, it makes a huge difference. Other cars, it doesn't matter at all. I don't know what the problem is. I'm not an electrician. I don't know the theories behind it. But if you have the ability to, don't do it. Just run them separate, take that problem out of the equation,
Yeah, I think that's probably an area where Honda knows what they were doing. So if they had wires grouped together or not, it's probably a good thing to mimic.
Yeah, I mean, and plus half the stuff you're ripping out of it anyway. And like you said, when you do that, I see people on Instagram all the time. I'm thinning my wiring harness. And I know within a couple of days, there's going to be a post. My car doesn't run. What the hell did I do?
Yeah. Do a little bit at a time and don't do it without the electrical manual.
Yeah. And read your electrical manual first, then do it, then check it, and then do the next one.
Yeah. I've got manuals for TSXs, Accords, TLs.
Yeah. I'm sure you have all of them.
I bought a lot of stuff when I was starting this car because I wasn't exactly sure which engine and transmission and stuff like that I was going to end up
Yeah,
using.
absolutely. When you're looking to build, well, I say looking. When you buy your chassis, buy that manual. When you buy the engine, if it doesn't come from that chassis, buy the manual, that engine, the manual that belongs to that engine. Buy that.
Yeah, you can get reprints on Amazon pretty cheap.
Yeah. Not for my car. I had to buy it off eBay for too much money, but it's been invaluable.
I remember having to buy my original Integra manual from like the Helms website, in like 2002 or something. And it was like $200. I couldn't believe it, but I still have it.
Yeah, well, you're not likely to get rid of it, so.
Nope.
All right. Well, I think that's a podcast. Everyone, follow Ryan here at Honda RCB on the Instagrams. He's building a wild car. I really enjoy looking at all the progress. So it's great to have you on the show, man. Thanks a lot.
Cool. Appreciate it, Con.
Until next time, keep working on yourself, keep working on the car, and let's get faster.